If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, October the 22nd, 2024 edition of the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we start off by saying thank you. Thank you for listening and tuning into today's program. Now, to get in contact with today's program with a question or a comment, simply call this number 516-453-9921. And if you have a comment, press the number 1 button and just wait until you are acknowledged, and then give your name, and then I will get it and give you the proper name. I'll give you a introduction. If you are a first-time caller, you do the same thing, but you indicate that you are a first-time caller, and we have something set up especially for you. If you would not like to do that, you can also Gmail me, and that is at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY, at gmail.com. I will get it, and then when the call volume is a little light, I will read your Gmail and then have Mr. Fuller comment on that. And then the last way that you can be connected to the show is by the chat room. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, and then you want to click on where it says programs. You click on programs, and the program you want is the Produce Justice Show. You click on that. The icon for the chat room is available on the right-hand side. You click that, and you are in. And occasionally I will read something from the chat room and formulate my own question. Most of the time I'll formulate my own question, but if I use it, something you said, I will also give you the credit for that, or the question came from you. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. All righty. The book that we will be discussing from is the book that Mr. Fuller has written, and you know that, but for those that are new, it is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept that you can get, and I highly recommend that you get that, and you can do that by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And get that copy either for yourself or even if you would like to distribute that to other people. It's like a manual. You heard of driving manuals and so forth. It's an instruction book, gives you suggestions on how to combat racism, which is white supremacy. Okay. I think that's it so far, unless something else comes up. So let me say good morning to Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay. All right, to start off today's show, we have a segment that we call the Thoughts and Expressions from the Mind of Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, today being the 22nd day of the month of October 2024, what is on your mind?
Really, it's a continuation of what we've been talking about recently. And it's focused mostly on what's happening right this minute worldwide. And as we get up each and every morning, how tenuous, you might say, everything really is. But then it's a lot of things that are really quite simple that can be done. So done for what reason? Why do anything? Why are we here? Well, we're here to solve problems. And really the problems are just bouncing all over the place. Small ones and big ones. But the biggest one seems to be just keep getting bigger. And that is the state of people's minds now. We're having great mental problems on account of the one thing that makes people mentally ill more than anything is uncertainty. And uncertainty in a way that is not compatible with stability. People want stability. Babies want stability. All creatures want stability. What do we mean by stability? We want a situation that we can kind of predict, and it's going to be pleasant, might be even boring, and even though people don't like to be bored, being bored is better than being anxious or being uncertain. Uncertain about what? About what's going to happen. What's going to happen to me by next week? What's going to happen next year? What is my life going to be like? That kind of instability is causing people, from what I've been told and from what I can see, is the dominant thing that's happening now to people all over the world, regardless of whom these people are, particularly those who are in proximity to other people. Because so many things that are happening that seem to be out of the individual person's control. So, what do you do to compensate for that? Well, you set your goals. Once you center on what they are or should be, and that should make you stable right there. Set a goal and fixate it on it, and make sure that that goal is one that is worthy of you fixating on. I mean, settle down your mind about what is it you want most at this point in your existence, and then concentrate on that. And then once you do that, and I'll say now what I said at the end of the previous show, and the one before that, I think, with these times being the way that they are, and that is hope for the very best. That's the one thing, that word hope, H-O-P, a four-letter word. Have that hope. That word is in a lot of the movies, or a substantial number of the movies that I recommend on my website, producejustice.com. That word hope. And I hear it in general conversations. In fact, there's a card on my desk that's been there for years. And it says in small print a lot of things, but the title of whatever it's saying on that card, I don't know whether it was a birthday card or what, but H-O-P-E, hope. So you hope for the best. But right along about now, worldwide, and right in your own circumstances, prepare for the worst. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and stay focused. on doing the best you can in a codified manner. Try to codify. Codify means pick out the best things to do about what your circumstances are right now. The very best things, and for the foreseeable future. And do not turn loose. Stay focused, stay centered, and don't turn loose regardless of what's going on around you. Hope for the best. Expect the worst. Because just about now I don't think anybody has to tell you. There are a lot of things going on that can affect you for the most worst circumstances you have ever been in. Prepare for that the best you can. And keep on going regardless of how it looks or going to look. From what people tell me, it's a lot of people who are suicidal now because they're afraid for the future. That's what brings on suicide. But don't give up. No, don't do that. Don't go nowhere near that, regardless of how things look. Just keep on keeping on, as they say, regardless. But expect the very worst, the worst things that you can imagine that can happen to you and people that you're close to. Expect that to happen at any moment. And one of the main things is expect to be mobile. You might have to move. Floods, fires, suddenly your house is not insured, or the circumstances of some type, lose your job. You might have to move and move swiftly. So don't accumulate a whole lot of stuff. Start getting rid of stuff right now while you can get rid of it at a profit. Because most likely you might have to move almost overnight. All of your circumstances might change at any moment. Boom, just like that. You got 24 hours to get out of here permanently without any chance of coming back. The circumstances are just that fluid for millions of people, white, non-white, and we see it on television. We hear about it, and huge numbers of us are in the middle of it, even if we don't know it. Ill things can happen at any moment. It'll change your entire existence on this planet forever. So you got to be mobile. Stop buying stuff you don't need. You got a lot of what they call holidays coming up. Definitely don't do that. And don't give anything to anybody except something that you pretty well know they're going to need this. They're going to need this. I'm not just doing something just to be doing it. Everybody should have that attitude. That's what's on my mind.
Okay, that's what's on your mind. Okay, I think what I got out of that is I said like this, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, because you never know what's going to happen here. So be prepared. Okay, don't forget when you call in to give your name to the person. I see a hand, but I don't see a name. But let's go to Houston and John. John, let's see if we can get you in. Here's the number again, 516-453-9790. 9921. Okay, John from Houston. John, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Happy birthday, my elder, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And Mr. Bobby, you don't have to answer today, but I'm going to try to say for producing justice and giving some solutions, could you consider arranging a conversation between Mr. Fuller Jr. and Louis Farrakhan? So my question is, again, on producing justice is us behaving in certain ways and acting on it. And I'll listen.
Okay. Mr. Fuller, you care to address that?
I wouldn't care to do it. That's the way that I'll address it. He said, have a conversation between myself and Minister Farrakhan.
Was that it,
Is that what
John?
he said?
Absolutely, because I think my elders would be showing the examples of how the next two generations need to conduct themselves and behave, no matter what their differences may be. That's just a thought.
Well, we do that.
Have a good morning.
Oh, go ahead. Excuse me.
Go ahead, John. Continue.
It was just a thought. Whether you act on it or not, I think it would be an example to set for the next two generations on how we come together and address the conditions to produce justice.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't care to do it because I don't know of anybody that I want to of note, because for several reasons. The people who have something to say, like I have something to say, and Minister Farrakhan has something to say, ex-President Obama has something to say, and he's saying it. And I think that's like in the title of my book, that's the United Independent Compensatory Way. That everybody, including like right now, and nobody should be used, no person, according to what I have written, should be an example for anybody, according to the code, what I have written. That's why I don't want to do it, because I don't consider any person someone to follow. Any person. You follow the logic that came with the universe. Now, when people tell you about logic, you listen to them, but you listen to everybody, because some of the most logical statements I've heard made, and I've told people this down through the years, I've heard some of the most logical things said by someone who was an alcoholic. But one or two times out of all their alcoholism and all their random talk, I have heard people who you might say were in a drunken stupor say something that made all the sense in the world. So you never can tell where something that you need to know comes from. And that's why I say, don't get in the habit of focusing on people as the source of what you need to know about this and that.
Mm-hmm.
You focus on what's being said and pick out what can be used by you, because your circumstances may not fit the circumstances of someone else. But the logic that came with the universe is for everybody. So you listen to everybody. Minister Farrakhan, Donald Trump, ex-President Obama and his spouse, presidential candidate Kamala Harris, listen to what she has to say, and what the bus driver has to say. if you ask them a question, and you're the only one on the bus, and sometimes people do that, even though they're not supposed to. The bus driver is not supposed to have conversations with people, but some of them do. And sometimes some of the best things you ever heard came from a cab driver or a bus driver, because they see a whole lot, and they put up with a whole lot.
Okay. Well, like John from Houston said, it was just a thought that he would presented before you. Let me read this Gmail. This comes from Jane. She wrote last week, but we ran out of time, so it's a two-part question, and I will do this. Greetings, Mr. Fuller. I have recently been studying the book of Enoch. According to the book, a fallen angel by the name of Aziel came to earth and taught humanity about weapons, armor, and even sensual deception through makeup / cosmetics. Mr. Fuller, do you think the origins of racism could be supernatural, possibly taught to humans by way of fallen angels to cause chaos and discord? And
I've heard that.
And if so, is this why humans have not been able to solve the problem of racism, because we didn't create it?
Could be. Some people have said that, but I said that if anything that people put together, people can take apart. That's a part of the compensatory philosophy. Anything that people put together, if they are people, or you describe them as people, people can take apart. I think that my mission, Neely Fuller's mission, is to solve the race problem. And how did I come to that conclusion? Because I'm affected. Every move that I made is always affected. The dominant force in it, the motivating force, is racism. Every move I've ever made, I've made it because of the existence of racism. I've never taken a single breath that was not subject to people who believed in mistreating people based on the color of the skin. My skin. There hasn't been a second that I haven't been subject, dominated by people who believe in I was put here on account of the color of my skin to be dominated and mistreated for their convenience and for my inconvenience and misery, and laugh about it. Don't regret it at all. Brag about it. And people of color. I wasn't the only one. Not the only one. And that's still the dominant force of the people of planet Earth here in the year 2024. So I came to the conclusion. Now, this is the conclusion I've come to until I find one better. Now, what the person is posing right now could be true, but I don't believe it's true.
Okay, you don't believe it's true?
Because I believe that I was put here to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I could just throw up both hands and say, hey, I'm not put here for any reason.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just put here to be a witness to what's going on. And so all I need to do when I get up every day is just do something.
All right.
But as far as having a goal, forget about it.
All right. Let's continue. she says, she continued in this. She said, in the Holy Bible's book of Exodus, Moses' brother Aaron and Miriam were cursed with leprosy by God/Creator for speaking negatively about Moses' black wife Zipporah. As a believer, I think that this is proof that racism is a supernatural evil that has spiritual and physical consequences for its perpetrators. Your thoughts on that, Mr. Fuller, please?
Could be. I don't know. And since I'm not even familiar with the stories, I've heard of some like that, similar to that. And people say, not a whole lot. But I've heard stories about the origins of racism, including the time frame. A lot of people say that racism is just about 400 to 600 years old. And I have heard, and I do believe, it's closer to 2,000 years. Now, that's what I believe, because the Roman Empire existed at least 2,000 years ago. The old Holy Roman Empire was called. And I have reason to believe it existed then because I've seen paintings where black people were in a slave-like position in the paintings that are 2,000 years old. And I've heard of others like that, where people have seen in the ruins of ancient Rome. And the movie I, Claudius has an opening scene where black females were dancing naked. I think it's in the second episode under Caesar Augustus, the first emperor, where they actually showed in that made-for-TV series, I, Claudius, a scene where black females who were slaves were in Rome and entertaining at one of Claudius I's parties that he was having in the imperial palace. Black females were all what you call shaking it, and they were all naked on the screen. And they were slaves, presumably. They weren't members of the royal family, that's for sure. And I've read things down through the years that kind of indicated that that's something like 2,000 years. Might not be during Augustus' time, but I understand he was the first emperor. That's the way I understand it.
But what does that have to do with her question? I must be missing something here.
Okay, our question is about the origins of racism. That's the way I understand it. And then there ain't nothing you can do about it because it's the origin of evil. And I'm saying you can do a whole lot of things about evil if it has anything to do with people spreading it. And some evil spirit that's on the equivalent that has as much power as the Creator, what we call God or Allah, or the Great Spirit, I mean, then that's another story, all right?
Well,
but the way I understand the question, it has to do with some people who invented racism. And I'm saying, I believe that anything done by people can be undone by people.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
I guess I got lost when you said the females were dancing naked. I'm trying to relate. How does that have to deal with the subject? I must have missed something there.
I was talking about time frames. But the origin of evil now, I don't know.
Okay.
The origin of God, and the origin of evil after God, I guess. Evil would come after God. If there was evil before God, I don't know about that.
Okay.
And that wasn't a question either, I don't think.
That wasn't a question. Oh, okay. Well, Anyway, Jane, thank you for your question, Jane, and don't be a stranger. You already know that. Listen, we're going to take a break here. You're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we are delighted to have you aboard to listen to today's show. Now, if you have a question, please dial this number right here or comment, 516-453-9921, and please, be clear so that we can have Mr. Fuller address your question. Now, you know that he uses a lot of examples, so, be clear so that whatever that you ask him, that, we all can understand what's going on, because we have a serious problem here with this racism. We got to deal with it, so we need to be clear. Okay, now, if you're a first-time caller, make sure that you give you tell the person on the other end that you are a first-time caller, and you will be heard. You can also join the chat room. You know what that is. Go to blogtalkradio.com, click on programs, and when you get that, the list of shows will come up, and you want the Produce Justice show, you click on that bad boy, and the chat room is available with the icon to the lower right-hand side, at least on my screen it is. You can do that. And lastly, you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MrBobby @gmail.com, and I will read it at a time when the show affords that opportunity to do that. Books discussed today will be the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept that you can get by going to producejustice.com. Book of suggestions of how to deal with racism, which is white supremacy. Okay, all righty. See, Dollar Bill got in there. Okay, let's go back to the phone lines again. 516-453-9921 and Milwaukee and Corey. Let me see, Corey. Put this right over there. And there you go. Corey, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Grand Rising, Mr. Bobby, and Grand Rising, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, my question is concerning the area of politics in the context of what the average person considers politics in terms of voting and things like that. My question, Mr. Fuller, is it possible for a non-white person to be elected to any position under a worldwide government of white supremacy racism, and that non-white person has any power other than what the white supremacist allows them to have?
It's possible, because the white supremacists don't know everything. And so that's what I believe. I believe the black person who is in the most what you call humble position. The black person who doesn't seem to know about anything might be the person who has been chosen by the Creator to stand up at a meeting and say one statement that blows everything that everybody ever said, including me, out of the water. I mean, it might be this one person at one meeting And they never said a word at 1,000 meetings. And then one day stand up and say one sentence like Einstein did when he gave that formula that nobody understood but him on a board for the atomic bomb. And, you know, you've seen mathematicians go to a blackboard. I've seen it. And that blackboard will be covered with numbers that nobody, and definitely not me, could understand any of them. Letters, numbers, the whole blackboard will be full. But I understand Dr. Einstein went to the board and said, you want to know the secrets of what we call relativity? And then he put something on the board that didn't take up any space at all. I think it was just one thing. The people who are mathematicians know what it is. It's a formula that only mathematicians can understand. I think. I know I don't understand it. But he said, that's it. And they'll say, well, what do you mean, that's it? That's it what? Say the formula for making an atomic bomb. One bomb blowing up a whole city. They say, that's it? Just that little scribbling you put on the board? It didn't take up no space in the board at all. It was just about three things, a letter and a couple of, something that looks like a Y and an M and a 2 or something like that, or an E. And that's it? For making a whole atomic bomb that can blow up a whole city? He said, you're looking at it. And I imagine somebody in the class probably fell out laughing. Said, is that all you got to tell us, Dr. Einstein? I'm out of here. Give me my tuition back. But he was correct. And later on, a guy named Oppenheimer took it and with a whole lot of more figures on a whole lot of boards, and some black females was in it, called Hidden Figures. And from that, so I've been told, a movie was made recently about it, the black people who were involved on what they call the Manhattan Project in the 1940s that brought about a bomb that even the people who dropped the bomb were awestruck. That captain, I understand, practically lost his mind, who was the pilot of the plane, the Enola Gay, August the 6th, 1945, when he saw that mushroom cloud. He was awestruck. I guess he forgot where he was for a moment or two. Say, my God, what is this thing that came out of this plane that I'm flying? Look at the devastation. I never dropped anything in all of my military career out of this plane or any other plane that did this kind of damage.
Okay. All righty. Let's see a minute. Corey, did that give you what you were looking for?
Yes, so Mr. Fuller, am I correct that your answer is yes, the non-white person can have power even if they're so-called coming from a humble position, but it does not mean that the power will be for countering racism. That I should have phrased my question better. My question was, can a non-white person who's elected to a position of so-called power of government under the system of global white supremacy, can that non-white person possibly be allowed to fight or counter racism?
Yes. Otherwise, I would stop doing what I'm doing. And say, this is not my assignment. I have embraced this as my assignment. Win, lose, or draw. In other words, I'm not trying to even what you call make a contribution, which is a term that I really have come kind of to detest when it comes to talking about racism. I mean, that whole concept, making a contribution. Neely Fuller's assignment is to solve the race problem, not make some contribution to solving the race problem. Well, I'm going to do my little bit. That philosophy is no part of the code. I mean, that attitude toward it. Well, I know it ain't nothing that's gonna work. I mean, it'll be here forever. But I just do what I can while I'm here. No, that's not the compensatory way. That's not the codified way. Everybody should go all in. Hey, I'm gonna solve the race problem. I'm gonna solve this problem. Now, that's the suggestion from the code point of view. What if a person wants to take a short route? I'm going to make a contribution. They can do that because the code does not allow me to criticize a person who does that. I can't criticize someone who says that. Well, it can't be done, but it's just something to do. And I think I'm going to do a little of it, so I can say I did something while I was here to help black people. Now, a lot of black people have that attitude. That's not mine.
Yes, sir. All righty. All right, Corey, thank you for your call. Let's go, let's see here. Let's go to New York City and Dollar Bill here. Thank you, Corey. All right, Dollar Bill, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Good morning, and what is your question?
Good morning, gentlemen. How you feeling? I'm glad to see you in good spirits today, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to ask a question from the book today. I want to go back to the original version, United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept book on page 147. And,
yeah, this is in the 1984 edition?
Yes, sir.
Okay, page 147.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
Wait a minute. Let me see, get that there. Do you have that book in front of you, Mr. Fuller?
Yeah, I have it in front of me.
Okay. All right, I'm there. Yeah, 147. Okay. Go ahead, Dollar Bill.
Are we there? Okay, so I don't know if you. It's a small portion. It says on the bottom, the last paragraph. It says, "Don't brag about being black." Reason, explanation. There is nothing about being black that justifies bragging. Then it says on the next page, there is nothing about being white that justifies bragging. And you say there is nothing about being anything that justifies bragging. Bragging cannot be justified. My question to you, Mr. Fuller, we seem to belittle each other for being black. A lot of people do. And I'm wondering why if bragging, I guess I should ask because I looked in your book. You didn't define the word bragging. So what do you mean by bragging?
What most people, I think most people kind of know what bragging is. You do something that you look around and everybody say, "Now I'm doing something that is really great," and I'm a great person because I'm doing it. No, you're doing something according to the code, and this is what this means based on what you're reading from, and that's why I put in there. I said, whatever you're doing doesn't call for you bragging because you didn't always know how to do it. You learn to do it, and if it's something that should be done, you do it because it should be done, not to give you a reason to brag. Because if you're doing what you're supposed to do. So what's the bragging about? And I'm saying black people take baby steps. And then, just like babies do, sometimes they feel proud of themselves because they're taking the baby steps. But even babies are not so much feeling proud in a way that they're being arrogant about it, looking around saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. The baby is saying, I'm learning. If you watch a baby, the baby is just saying, I'm trying to walk like other people. I fall down. I cried about it for a little while, but that wasn't doing no good. So I'd get up and try to walk again. And when I finally learned how to walk across the room without falling, I kind of looked around and I was amazed. That's what the baby is really saying. You can almost see it in their eyes. And then they say, well, I'm gonna try to walk without holding on to things. And then the baby does it. And little by little, they learn to walk without falling down. But they're not telling everybody how proud they are or even looking like it. They just try to take the next step because they know I can always do better. They've already proven that. They weren't doing this well 2 months ago, but now they're doing this well right now. And they're amazed at that process, but they're also learning. They're learning there's always another way to improve. You still got a way to go. You're toddling now, but you stop falling down somewhere along the way, and you were amazed at that. Now you'll continue on this course because it seems to be working. Now that should be the view of every creature on this planet. But black people got in the habit, and that's why it's in the textbook, of taking baby steps and then brag forever about the baby step. And within the immensity of all of the problems of the universe, we haven't even got started. What are you bragging about? That's the message. That's why that's in the book. Stop bragging. Roll up your sleeves, and there are thousands of more steps you got to take or should be taken. and you should immediately make your next plan. Once you got a little bit of grip on this, all right, let's go further, and then further, and then further. Until when? Until all problems are solved. Neely Fuller, black bragger, chest stuck out, always ready to take off your shirt and stick out your chest and think that you're a king of the world. Whole lot of black males more than anybody are like that. You see it on television, you see it in things you see right around you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Celebration time. My God.
Okay. Dollar Bill.
People in the most backward the most backward people in the world. Celebration time. Shut up. Think. My goodness.
Dollar Bill, did Mr. Fuller address what you were asking?
According to the way he wrote it in this book, Mr. Bobby, he gave an excellent answer. But I just wanted to ask him one other thing. So, okay. Mr. Fuller, how that was a great answer. I mean, that's perfect. But so, how would you define a person who's maybe boasting about, have pride in themselves as for being black? Should we have pride in ourselves for being black? And
no.
And that stuff? Okay.
No, I'm going to give you the reason, and I say it all the time, and it's in the book. You didn't do it. What are you bragging about? Neely Fuller, you didn't have nothing to do with being black. You were nowhere around starting that project of making you black. There is somebody that can take credit, and that's your creator. You ain't created nothing. So what are you bragging about? Take this shovel and do something useful. That's what Neely Fuller says to himself if he finds himself doing just that. I'm black and I'm proud. You what? Proud of what? Proud of being black. Well, when did you make yourself black? Oh, I didn't have nothing to do with that. Well, shut up. How about that? And try to do something now that you are here, like solve a problem. Walking up and down the street talking about how proud you are. Proud of what? Get out of that. I'll give something for everybody to think about that didn't come from Neely Fuller. There's something called 7 deadly sins. You can look that up in the dictionary right now, maybe. If you got a dictionary or a computer, it gives you words out of a dictionary. What are the 7 deadly sins? I know what's on the top of the list. Pride. You got a lot of people saying there, I'm transgender and I'm proud. And I take pride in being transgender. Oh, you take pride in it? The 7 deadly sins, and that's at the top of the list. Stop and think about what you're saying before you say it. And be prepared to explain in detail why, if you are proud of being black or being anything. Proud of being what you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing. Black doesn't do anything. If it's in the form of a person, except That's the way it is. Now, somebody can do something about you being black, but being proud to be black and you didn't do it, oh boy, that's just...
So when James Brown,
do you
Mr.
know
Fuller,
what you're
said,
doing?
"I'm black and I'm proud," how did that affect you when James Brown said that?
That's when that came. I think that came after he said it.
Yeah, he did. He said,
Because
"I'm black
I
and I'm
thought
proud." Made
about
a
it.
song.
1984. That's when that was put in the book. 1984. Had James Brown made his recording before then?
I'm not sure. Somebody could look that up for me. I'll have Rita.
I think it was in the 70s.
Okay. Yeah, you might be correct on that part there.
Yes,
I don't have
it was in the 70s.
right there. Okay.
But now he can say that, and he should. All right. But then that calls for some questions, because that's what codification is all about. Just like I said about being transgender, that's not a criticism. I just say, well, wait a minute. I got another question. Why are you proud? Why do you think that you looked at yourself and you made a decision? I don't need this. I have this cut off. I'm supposed to be female.
I believe James Brown, 1968, I think Rita, 888, Rita mentioned that. He said that in 1968. That's 68. I'm black and I'm proud. Yeah. A lot of stuff
I thought that was way earlier.
Yeah, but a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah, but I said it even before his record came out. That came out after. I was saying it, but it wasn't in print until 1984. What I said there on the original copy of the textbook on page 148, 147, 148. But I was talking about just saying I'm black and I'm proud.
Yeah, and
I made a lot of speeches about that, and then I broadened it. I say, never say that never brag. See, black people in the position that we're in, we should never be bragging about anything. I mean, with the position that we're in right here in 2024, I mean, we're too quick to brag. And then when we do whatever needs to be done, even if we solve every problem in the world, we should breathe a sigh of relief and say, I finally got something done that I was sent here to do.
All righty.
That's going to be my attitude. If I solve every problem that's in the world, I'm talking about me, Neely Fuller, this morning. If I solve every problem in the entire world, including all that mess that's going on in the Middle East and in the Congo and in Somalia and what have you, I, this morning, at the snap of my finger, solved all of those problems, every problem on the planet. What I would do is breathe a sigh of relief and look around and say, to do.
Okay.
That needs doing. That's what I would do. No parade, no nothing. And I think everybody should have that attitude.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Say Shata 7 said this, that this has just been reported to me, that after the death of Martin Luther King, James Brown made that declaration, or made his declaration. So just want to be clear. We don't want to be confusing. Well, anyway, that's going to be the end of the first hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. So we thank you, but we have a whole hour to go. So if you got to go, Hope something was said that was inspirational, and hope that you will tune in next week. But stay tuned for the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. that will commence in 5 seconds. All righty. Welcome back to the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. We thank you for those of you who are still hanging on the line, and we have we got some people with their hands up, so we'll get to those. Yeah, we'll do that. And for those that are new, I guess I'm missing my intro music, but that's okay. For those who are new, this is the number that you call into, and that number is 516-453-9921. And, of course, you press the number 1 button and wait. Thank you. Wait for the person to acknowledge you, and then if you're a first-time caller, make sure you give them your name so that I can hopefully give you a proper introduction. You can do that. You can also Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY at gmail.com. I will get it and read it and give you the acknowledgement, and particularly when the times are slow. You can also join the chat room. We're glad to have people coming back into the chat room. Yeah, we are very happy about that. Go to blogtalkradio.com, and then you want the Produced Justice show. So you do want to get the Produced Justice show, but you have to get programs first. Go to the program menu, and then you go to the Produced Justice show. You get that cling on, and then you are eligible to get into the chat room with the icon to the right. And you know what to do once you are in there, and good information is in there too. A lot of good information. So that's the way to do that. Also this right here, the book, which, not AP, but thank you, AP, but Blacktop referred to the book, and this is why you should have the book. One of the reasons, as a suggestion that you should have the book, when we go to the book, then you can read it also as we do. That is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Now, there are 3 books, but one of them is a word guide. Of course, Mr. Fuller had spoken about or addressed the word guide. He couldn't get every word in there. It would just be impossible to do that. But, Mr. Fuller, why did you put that word guide in there for clarity for those who are new to the program?
Well, for one thing, like talking about America, just as an example. I've been saying it, and I say it on this program, and I have people who still call in on the program, this program, and while talking about Americans doing this and doing that. And I'm saying right there, 2 minutes before the person calls in, I will have said, never accuse Americans of doing anything, please, or never compliment an American for doing anything, because Americans and American does not exist, not one. Not one. According to what? Neely Fuller? According to logic. Americans practice justice, and nobody practices justice in the system of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. That's impossible. Okay. That's mathematically impossible.
All righty.
But the main qualification for being an American, folks, for the umpteenth millionth time, is that you have to be a person who practices justice. And practicing justice in the system of white supremacy is impossible. Okay. So there's no such thing, no such person, no ego that's an American.
Okay. All right. Let me bring it back in. the main thing, and that was an example that Mr. Fuller used, but the main thing is there are 3 volumes to get in the book, and you can get the book by going to producejustice.com, producejustice.com, and that, what Mr. Fuller just said, is in the book. All righty, let's do this. Let's go to AP. Okay, AP, you're on, Mr. Fuller. Good morning. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. May I ask a question, but also follow it up with a VGQ?
If it's not too long, okay?
Sure.
You can do that.
I got
All right,
you.
go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to stay on the line, too. Mr. Fuller, can peace be obtained without weapons in the system of racism, white supremacy? And I'd like to follow that up with a VGQ and bring more clarity to that question.
Well, by weapons, I'm assuming, and I don't want to assume so much, you're talking about something that causes death?
Correct. Yes, sir.
I don't know, but I believe it can be done.
Okay.
I believe it can be done.
I do too, but
I'm working. I'm trying. I wrote this book with it in mind that that's the way it should be done, and I'm trying to do it that way.
Okay. May I follow up with?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. The reason why I asked the question is because planet Earth, based on we have never had peace on planet Earth in recorded history. And we do speak about the Creator. So do you think, or is it predestined to be a violent planet, or designed by the Creator to be a violent planet? Because we've never had peace on the planet in recorded history. Now, I want to follow this up with last week's program. We had a caller by the name of Joshua call into the show. He described himself as a military man that traveled to many countries, and he asked a question, or he made a vague comment, but did he call into the show to help produce justice, or just to create chaos or confusion, or be condescending in why he asked the question and then he departed the show? Because remember, the show was interrupted early for about 15 minutes, 15 minutes, by what myself and maybe a couple of other callers assumed, and I did ask Joshua to call in to clarify any misunderstandings or misguided thoughts about who he may be. And I only make that comment because he's the first white caller that I've ever heard or seen like called into the show. And if we want help from white supremacists or suspected white supremacists to help us, I would love for them to, and I'm sure you welcome them, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller, to call into the show and have their input to produce a constructive result. So thank you. Please answer the question if you could. You did already, but can peace be obtained on the planet without the use of military weapons or destruction as we see it in the Middle East, in Ukraine, what we have seen in the history on the planet? Thank you very much, and I'll continue to listen.
All right.
I believe it. I believe it can. That's all I can say. I believe it can. The idea of peace, no one being mistreated, and no one and everyone who needs constructive help getting it. That's what I would call peace. That's what it would add up to. Whatever help is needed, the person that needed it most got it. And that's in every area of activity, 24/7, everywhere on the planet. Peace on earth, goodwill toward You know, lots of songs are sung about peace, okay? Peace of mind, lots of slogans about peace. I believe it can be achieved by people because I think that that's what people are assigned to do. Or people in a perpetual state of war, which is where we have been up to now. Conflict. Always conflict. And the smartest people on the planet, the white supremacists, believe in perpetual conflict. They will say that they like peace, but by their actions, like we say in ghetto language, I mean, creating mess. They like that, even when there's no reason to do so, none at all. They believe in. Hey, we it's too peaceful around here. We got to start some war. We'll go somewhere and find somebody. We can't. Well, hey, we found everybody on this planet. We'll find somebody in some other planet. We're gonna have what? Well, we'll make movies about what we're gonna do when we get there. Star Wars. That's what it's gonna be about. We're gonna be starring in war and going to stars to make war. Well, you ain't even got there yet. You don't even know whether there's any people up there. Well, if some people, I mean, if there ain't no people up there to fight, we'll try to invent some. But we're going to fight somebody. I mean, we got that in mind before we even get there. And don't stop until we find somebody else to fight. We done fought just about everybody here. We got bored with that.
You know. Okay. All right, thank you, AP.
That's
Keep
the white
line.
supremacist mindset.
Okay. Here's a question from Ross Amin. Says this. I guess it's a VGQ and a question. Probably more of a question than a VGQ. But he says this. Mr. Fuller, I do believe and hope that justice will be produced and replace this system of global racism with it. But if there was only one real government on the planet, how can a constructive result to destroy it and replace it with justice come from a black person who is allowed to be a leader or president in an elected position?
We'll find that out if I keep trying.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me finish here.
That's not the last. Go ahead.
Okay, wait a minute. He said, logic leads me to believe it comes from a so-called, quote, everyday person, in the quote, that we have seen. And then he has Try, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King Jr., etc. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
It might come from nowhere or everywhere. Where does anything come from? You find out what should be done, and from wherever you are, the top of a mountain or in a submarine or walking around with a spear and no shoes, it might come from someone like that. Someone who has never seen an airplane in some isolated place on the planet. And that person walks right out of that place and walks in other places completely strange to that person, and that person's mind starts clicking in such a way, boom, they got an answer of how to do everything and the best way to go about doing it to solve problems. That can happen. I believe it can happen.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen symptoms of that type of thing, all types of things that people in barbershops sat around and saying, that can't be done. Ain't nobody going to do that. I've heard that and heard that and heard that. And somebody, I forgot the philosopher, said, never say that something can't be done, because some damn fool will come along and do it.
Okay.
I have seen symptoms of that in the few years I've been on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people say, "Oh, ain't no way in the world that's going to happen." Somebody who knows it all. And that's another thing I learned. Be careful of people who know it all.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it all. I've been here, I've been there, I've been in the war. I've been to Paris. I know it all. You want to know it all? Ask me. Well, before I got out of my teens, I knew that wasn't true. Oh, you know it all. There ain't nothing else for you to learn. That's why Neely Fuller says, I'm still learning.
That's why Neely Fuller says, I'm still learning. Okay. Quote of the day. I am from everywhere that I have ever been, and I am from everywhere that I have never been. That comes from the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept.
And that's the truth. Even in my own existence, when people ask me where are you from, I'll tell them. My first answer, I give two answers. My first answer will be the one that everybody expects. And a person said, "Fuller, where are you from?" I say, "I'm from Oklahoma," because that's what they expect. Then I'll say, "I'm also from every place that I've ever been, and I'm from every place that I have never been." And that's the truth.
Yeah, it's beginning to sink in. Mm-hmm. Okay. As a matter of fact, AP, you're still on the line. Guess who is on the line here? Joshua from Illinois. So here we go. Joshua, Illinois. You were summing up, so go ahead. You are on with Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir. I'm not entirely sure what he was talking about. My simple understanding, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., is that before you had a skin color, before you had a gender, you were a child of God, and anybody that embraces that will fight for another child of God, and you will put your life on the line to protect children of God. Up to you, sir.
Oh, would I put my life on the line?
No, sir. I'm saying what I did. I'm saying that that's what children of God do for each other.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess so. You were saying it. That's another part of the code. You were saying what you were saying. Now, what I say is, I was given an assignment, and I had a creator. I think my assignment came from my creator. And my assignment, the way I see it right this moment, is to solve problems. And the biggest problem that I think that I have been assigned to solve is the race problem. And that's why I'm on this program. It took me a long while to come to the conclusion that that was my assignment, because it seemed like everywhere I went, I had problems, and every problem I ever had its roots in something called racism in the form of white supremacy. Every problem, not some,
Yes,
every last one of them. So I said, oh, this must be my assignment. I can't run from it. And the indication that this is my assignment is that I cannot run from it.
Yes,
I was always trying to run from the race problem. I was always trying to find that wonderful golden place that somebody had already set up for me. All I had to do was get on a train or a plane or a bus or a boat and get there.
Go ahead, Joshua.
Yeah, no, sir. What I preface that with is that before you had a skin color or genitals, you were my sibling as a child of God. You accept that premise?
Oh, before I existed, I was a child of God?
Yes, sir.
Is that your question? I guess. I don't know. Now, that's one of those I don't know questions. Because I don't know where I was.
I'm saying the way that I've lived my life is that everybody I speak to, I've treated them before we all had form. They're my sibling because they were a child of God, as am I. Is that a fair assessment?
I guess, if that's the way you see it. If you see it clearly that way, that is your assignment to see it that way. And I can see the logic of it. So all I can say is follow the logic.
Okay, hang on there, Mr. Fuller. Hang on, Joshua. Let me bring AP back in here. AP, you summoned him up. Now, did that answer your question that you had for him?
Yes. Can you hear me?
AP,
yes, sir.
Did that answer your question that he said for you?
Yeah, he did fine. More of my point was not to just basically call him out singularly, but to bring the understanding that and the fundamental problem with a lot of suspected white supremacists, because I'm not calling him one. I'm not saying that he is one. I would like to see, especially like when I make reference to watching MSNBC, and I don't just watch MSNBC or make references towards listening to the Nation of Islam or such, just on that alone. I watch CNN. I watch the local news. I follow logic. I have Mr. Neely Fuller's book, and I have an understanding, and I'm still learning as I watch everything unfold on the planet, and especially here in America, with America being the major hub. And, of course, America has several allies. Their main allies is Britain, Israel, Spain, France. I can't think of the other one, but those are the 5 allies, major allies that so-called America supports. So, and it's a global system that Mr. Neely Fuller speaks about, our late sister Frances Cress Welsing speaks about. So I wanted to ask Joshua to call into the show, and if he is a person that follows God, or as he asked you, Mr. Neely Fuller, about whether or not you see yourself as a child of God and that you follow his supposed teachings or example of how we should live, treat each other like you want to be treated, produce justice, produce peace, love your fellow neighbor as the second commandment in the so-called Holy Bible, then he can sit on the sideline and be kind of quiet about help producing that. And since we're coming up on a presidential election, and I don't want to advocate and talk so much about being pro-Democrat or so-called Republicans, we see the infighting. We see in Donald Trump in terms of how he conducts himself, how he acts, and how he's been allowed to do what he does, say what he says, show his depravity, show his just unchecked manner in terms of what he does and how he does it, and get away with it because he has money backing him. He has a certain amount of people that help enable him to do what he does. So that's the reason why one of the fundamental questions that I asked you earlier, Mr. Neely Fuller, do you think that peace can be obtained on planet Earth without weapons. I believe it can be done so also. But when will it come?
And Fuller did address that. Hang on.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did. Okay. Wait a minute. Let me see here. Okay. See, Joshua. Okay. See, Joshua, you understand that now?
Yes. Which question? Which question would you like me to answer?
Well, no. Just what AP. He had summoned you up, and then he addressed whatever you said. Now, are you okay with that, or do you understand what he was trying to say?
I understand what he was trying to say, but but you understand that I don't care about the Republicans or Democrats in either direction.
Yeah, I got that. Okay, all right, that's good. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Fuller. So you heard the discourse, and they both said what they said. So your thoughts on that before we have to end this half hour here? Go ahead, please, sir.
VGQ.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah, no, that's good.
What I mean is one of the persons I understand in this conversation had been classified as white. I've never known a white person to call in on the program.
Okay. Well, that's all right. That's all right.
Yes.
That's all right. That was a good discourse.
But if they were black, they said what they had to say, and everybody should think about what was said.
Right.
That's how this program is conducted. That's why you have that BGQ factor, Victims Guaranteed Qualifications. You're qualified to say anything about race, racism, or counter-racism, if you are a victim of racism.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's break this off here. And thank you, everybody. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we thank you as we travel down to the last half hour of the show. For those who are new to the program or want to call in or even want to chime in on the discourse that we have between AP and Joshua, you can. Here's the number, 516-453-9921. And make sure you give the person on the other end your name so that I can give you a proper introduction. If you are a first-time caller, make sure you tell the caller trainer that, and you go right to the head of the line. Okay. You can also Gmail me, and here's my Gmail address, the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY, @gmail.com. I will get it. Now, I probably will not be able to read it today. I don't think so. There's a lot that's backed up, but I will read it and let you know about it, and we can have a discussion on that. You can also join the chat room by going to blogtalkradio.com, and I almost forgot. Then you want to click on where it says programs, and the program that you want is the Produce Justice Show. And when you click on that, then the icon for the chat room becomes available, and you can get in there, and there's some very good information in the chat room, and occasionally I will glean something off of that and read it on the air so that we all can understand or perhaps have Mr. Fuller comment about that. But do this. Do not use the Gmail to ask me to ask Mr. Fuller a question. That's what the number is for. The call-in line number is for. Okay. As you can see right now, a lot of discussion has been about the book that Mr. Fuller has written, and it is, in my opinion, just as a suggestion that you get this book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. You can get that book by going to producejustice.com, producejustice.com. All the logistics and all the problems that we had are now solved. So when you order the book, you will get your book. You will get your book. So don't even worry about that. And if you don't want it for yourself, maybe perhaps this is as a suggestion for somebody else to get that book. But it's a guide to help you confront and deal with racism, which is white supremacy. Okay, I think that's it. Let's go to Canada and Victor. Victor, good morning. You're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Can you hear me, Mr. Bobby?
What is your question, Victor?
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say that it was a really good exchange between AP and the young military man. And I don't know if he was really classified as white or not, but I think it's good to have discussions between white people and non-white people in order for us to understand what this white supremacy system is really all about. But the question that I have for Mr. Fuller is that, Mr. Fuller, do you think that the interactions on the show will be able to demonstrate what the codification, what counter-racism is and what codification is, and how it could replace the system of racism with a true system of justice?
Well, if I understand the question, the answer to the question is in the textbook. We have a system of white supremacy. In my opinion, the only government on planet Earth. That's the only government. If you start talking about government, you're not talking about Republicans and Democrats. You are talking about the system of white supremacy. And let's get it according to my suggestion, and it's just a suggestion. That's what you're always talking about. If you're talking about anything dealing with government, there's only one government on planet Earth in 2024. And the name of that government is the system of white supremacy in capital letters. If you're talking about government, real government, not imaginary government. American government is an imaginary government, an excellent image of what a government should be, or an African government.
Mr. Bobby, I think I'm going to get you next, okay? So hang on in there, okay?
Oh, okay. You good. Thank you, Mr. Bobby.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Vic, wait a minute. Oops. Victor, can get you on the screen here. Okay, a minute. Yeah, there you go. Okay, did that answer you, Victor?
Sort of. I guess Mr. Furler decided to take the side of going in terms of defining that we're subject to a criminal government that is anti-non-white and that believes in insanity and that doesn't believe in truth, correctness, peace, and justice. We need to make the government or create a world where that can happen. But the only thing I can think of is that the government needs to be replaced with a true system of justice. So the only way that I can think of is to speak to those people who are in government and to either persuade them with whatever means to
I'm hearing
justice.
some distortions here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little distortion there, Victor. We can't get it there. Yeah.
Sorry.
You're going to have
I guess what I was trying to say.
Yeah, it's too much distortion there, Victor. We're going to try back. Let's go to Nicolette here. Nicolette, let's see if I can get you on here. Okay. Nicolette, good morning. You're on, Mr. Fuller. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. If I understand correctly, Imani, which is faith that you made it another year around the sun, happy late birthday. Okay, so today was kind of heavy. My daughter been on me about keeping a bag because of the different disasters. However, I wanted to comment a couple of things about the conversation with Mr. AP and Mr. Joshua and Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller and Mr. Joshua seemed like they were saying the same thing because Mr. Fuller was saying he's from where he's been and he's from everywhere he'd never been, which is creation of all creations. And it sounded like that's what Joshua was saying, the same thing. It was just coming in two different metaphors or two different languages, that we all was the same. Joshua was saying that we all are the same under the creation of all creations. And Mr. Fuller was saying to me that we all are from where we are never been because we are created by the same creator that created everything on this earth. So then brings me to my actual comment that I had. I don't know if anybody else seen it. I stumbled upon Miss Harris at church on Sunday, on Pink Sunday, and there was some comments that was made that was similar to what Mr. Neely Fuller was saying, because under the Black United Front, the W.E. Du Bois Center that educated me and showed us films on top of films of black people being from everywhere, Korea, blackness, that was the Big Bang Theory when it was taken over or invaded, and why the noses were smashed everywhere around the world of people. And then Mr. Fuller greatly saying about bragging, because that's what the Black United Front was telling us, is that was the downfall of people of color because of the bragging and thinking that they could create better than the creator. So anyway, moving back to the election season, I was watching, and Ms. Harris was saying generations after her, to ensure that generations after her, that we as a people need to become a community where if we are in positions of power, that we figure out a way to disassemble white supremacy and create a more cohesive type of living space for everybody on the earth. However, again, I'm not persuaded one way or the other yet, because to me, again, president is just the face of the company. Legislation really is the people who hold the power. However, her speech was at the church kind of pulled on your religious strings and gave you hope or optimisticness, because if we really, people that are of color, really are in positions and really come together to come up with a plan that's really cohesive and equal for everybody, then like Mr. Neely Fuller is saying, the codification, it has now been implemented, and we should start seeing production of justice. So thank you for letting me be all over the place today. Thank you for the conversation being very meaty and full, and I'm glad that I'm always in code. Thank you.
All righty. Okay, Fuller, Mr. Fuller, do you care to comment, even though she said what she said?
That comes under VGQ.
Yes, sir.
She said what she said.
Yes, sir.
And people should think about what she said.
Mm-hmm.
And think about it and think about it. People should think about everything that everybody says. Think about it. Examine it and use the part that you can use and the part that you can't. Well, once you think about it, make sure you know what you're doing and proceed from there. Everybody has a mind that should be considered.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Logically speaking, because nobody has solved the race problem.
Mm-hmm.
See, people can talk and talk and talk, but has anybody ever done it?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No.
So that means everybody who thinks they have something to say that will solve it, say it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All righty. Let's go down to Dallas, and we have two questions. Ray. Ray, good morning. And wait a minute. There we go. Ray, you're on this morning. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Can you please leave me on the line?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fuller, I have a question. Mr. Fuller, I have a question in the VGQ. My question is, according to the code that you've written, the exchange that you had earlier with the white person, was that how the code says you're supposed to carry out interactions with white people when talking about race, racism, and or counter-racism?
The question is what?
Did you interact with the white person in the way that the code describes that one should act when talking about race, racism, and or counter-racism?
I've never known a situation where on this program I was talking to a white person.
See, okay, well, my VGQ is the code that Mr. Fuller has written. It gives specific details and ways to go about questioning white people when they talk about race, racism, and or counter-racism. I don't want to give attention to the white person that called earlier, but we listened to Mr. Fuller for years, and we claim to read his book, but when a white person is on the line, all of that went out of the window. That white person was supposed to be asked about race, racism, and or counter-racism. Are you a white person? Does the system of white supremacy exist? Should the system of white supremacy exist? If we're going to do this, we're going to have to be codified, not talk about Republican and Democrat, not talk about children or God. We need to keep it straight-laced codified. That's all I have to say. Please leave me on the line.
All righty. Let me see here. Leave him on the line here. Okay. All righty. Let's see. I think that's it as far as the question, unless somebody else is calling in. Mr. Fuller, why don't we have these minutes here? Okay, Victor, see if we can get you back here. If you got your phone
and sometimes
checked
what
out.
they could do, if they have control of your phone, they could do it via your phone. But sometimes they need to have someone close enough in order to put the malicious code on. Now, I can tell you, brother, I never knew anything about cell phone iOS. I didn't know anything about mobile cell phone devices. Yeah, I'm constantly learning, and it's not because I'm a smart guy. You know, I used to think that I knew a lot about computers, and I realized I don't know anything.
Victor, wait a minute, Victor, there's somebody in the background that's kind of interfering with whatever you're saying. Can you move to a different location?
Yeah. I agree. I agree with you, but it's just that, because I'm learning more about how this world works, I'm trying to figure out ways of navigating where I need to be so I can get what I need in order so I can accomplish my short-term and long-term goals.
Gotcha.
But, at the same time, I do need a female partner because I'm getting up in age, and I also need a decent job. Or I can create my own job. So I'm trying to do these things.
Okay. Victor, out of respect to you and for the people that's listening, it's kind of hard when we have that background noise in there. I don't know if you're in a situation where you can control that, but it makes it very difficult to understand what you're saying and then have Mr. Fuller to answer or to address your question. So I'm going to make a suggestion that when you call in, please, sir, please try to be in a area where we can just hear you and not the background noise here. I'm sorry to have to do that, but it just makes it very difficult. And Mr. Fuller did make mention of that earlier when I had you on here, and I don't know what you did to resolve that problem there. Okay, Mr. Fuller, let's talk about your book here. There's been a lot of saying about your book and so forth. So what say you concerning the book you have written, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept?
Well, I just tell people to read it and act on what they think accordingly. I mean, the suggestions, there's quite a few suggestions made, like the suggestion in the original that we discussed earlier, just about bragging. You say, do I brag? Do I ever brag about anything? And the textbook says, if you brag, stop doing it. If you steal, stop doing it. You work at a place and you see stuff around that you can steal, don't steal. They know when you're stealing, or they can find out. The white supremacists are the biggest thieves in the world. There ain't nothing they don't know about stealing. So black people think they can get away with stealing, particularly some politicians think they can sit up there and say, well, the white folks do it, so I'm going to do it. No, you're not. And if they let you do it, they're letting you do it. Understand that. Anytime you think you're stealing and getting away with it, you're not getting away with it. They set you up to do that. You were set up before you were born. when it comes to stealing, there's absolutely nothing about stealing you will ever learn that they don't know. And I'm saying that to the whole black world in general. You think that you know something about stealing that the white supremacists don't know? They steal whole continents. I mean, with people laughing while they're doing it and bragging while they're doing it. The people that they're stealing, laughing and bragging about what they did last night or 2 weeks ago. Or how they got over on somebody. You're not getting over on nothing. It's nothing they don't know about you that's worth knowing if you're black. Nothing. They already know. They knew before you were born because they did most of the teaching. You don't know some mysterious. No black person on the planet Earth knows anything worth knowing that the white supremacists don't know. That's why they're in a supreme position. They argue and fuss with each other, but collectively, they don't have to argue and fuss with no black person, period. Because of what? They can kill you anytime they want to, just that one alone. They say, you can't kill me anytime you want to. You can kill some of us. We know how far that's going to go.
Okay.
But we can kill all of you.
I've noticed
at the bush, at the touch of a button.
Touch of a button. I've noticed, Mr. Fuller, I don't know, maybe you have either, but I've noticed the last few programs that a lot of people have been referring to the 1984 book as opposed to the 2016 edition. Is there a fundamental reason why that is, or what?
I think it's easier to read, even from the layout of the book. The typing. I find it easier to read my own typing. I mean, not that wasn't my typing, but that's in the 1984 edition. The lady did it on an old-fashioned typewriter, all right, and that's how it's printed. But now, the typing in the 2016 edition and in the Word Guide, it's different. You can see that. Not only that, I was a better writer, in my own opinion, than I was in I was a better writer in the original edition, 1984, than I was later, 2016.
Yes. Okay.
I was a much better writer.
Yeah.
I did a lot of fumbling and stumbling. And it's some of the, I always say my last 2 volumes are the best of the worst written counter-racist volumes ever produced by anybody.
Yeah, okay.
That's the and I'm telling the truth. That's the way I advertise my own book.
Okay, well, I mean,
those last 2 books are the worst written counter-racist books.
I guess
but
it's
they're
subjective.
the best. They're among the best.
Yes. Okay, I guess it's subjective because I found the 1984 edition a little difficult to read. To me, the 2016. Along with the Word Guide was much more clear, but that's neither here or there. Everybody likes their own. Let me get to this Gmail. This person wrote this Gmail, Choi. I can't pronounce the name, but it's a VGQ reply to an on-air reply. Says this, Mr. Fuller, on July the 20th, 2021, on your podcast at the 1 hour and 11 minute past, you stated that at 27 years, you realize you were not on your assignment of resolving the problem of racism. You stated people you were time, Dr. King, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, Dolores Tucker, Daisy Bates, Gloria Richardson, a long list of people, or dark-skinned people, had made more sense when they were fighting racism, and any other time they didn't make sense. Once again, Elijah Muhammad stated the planet Mars was our Mars. He stated this to show us that we were bigger than this slot in time and destined for greater things. As I believe you have reiterated, we are meant for better things. You both are right, as I, and this is parenthesized, and my son, end of quote, have seen white superiority and communicated with the people of Mars. They know many, including white, listen to your podcast. However, they want Kemet to fix our own mess. You are here to do what you have done. Have a super deterministic day, fellow POW. Okay. Okay, do you have a response to that, Mr. Fuller?
I would say he said what he said, and it should be thought about. DGQ.
Okay.
Everybody who listened to what he was saying can think about what he's saying and act accordingly. See, I'm duty-bound to say that because I cannot deviate from the code.
Yes, sir.
That's why we need a code. That's when I started becoming a little bit, showing some signs of sanity. Because in the system of white supremacy, everybody's insane.
Already.
The white supremacists have seen to that.
Okay. Another one from the Gmail. We'd love to invite you over sometime, or they'll say they're sorry for something and be insincere. Mr. Fuller, what is the best way to avoid this confusion/problem?
The confusion, avoid the confusion. What problem?
Of saying things that you don't mean.
Oh, when people say...
Here, I'll read it again. He says, Mr. Fuller, I've noticed that people make statements that they don't mean. For example, he says, we'd love to invite you over sometime, or they'll say they're sorry for something and be insincere. What is the best way to avoid this confusion/problem, Mr. Fuller?
Ask questions, and the fundamental questions are, what do you want me to do? Why do you want me to do it? How do you expect me to do it? Or plan for me to do it? Because you want me to do something, what's your plan for me to do it? Okay? And then the fourth question, what do you expect the constructive result to be? And these are 4 universal questions. They'll apply to I'll say they'll apply to every circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if it's something that's, you know, or you can ask these 4 questions in another way, you know, to be very more specific. Okay? The first one is, what do you want me to do? All right? And then the second way would be, what do you want to do? And that's really the best way to start with it. What do you want to do, sir or ma'am? Why do you want to do what it is you want to do? And how do you plan to do it? Do you have a plan for doing what you want done? And you're going to do it? And what do you expect the constructive result to be? In other words, you can ask those 4 questions in a number of ways.
Now, that's the logic behind that, correct?
But that's the logic. And they always work. That's a part of the code, a solid part of the code. In page 171 of the 2016 edition, they show one example, but on page 171. But you can use that example on the job or anywhere, at any meeting. See, because it comes down to what? The key word, want. People will always talk about what they want. That's why it always works. But that's the format that you should follow.
So when those two fellas, when those two fellas rushed down, I guess you were at a speaking engagement in New York City, and those two fellas rushed down to say something to you. You sat down or gave them a chance to speak, and what did they do? And I think the end result, they ran out. What happened on that, quickly?
Oh, on that example, it was two white men that ran down the aisle while I was talking.
Yeah.
About the code, and they screamed out, "You are homophobic." And before I could say anything, they ran out of the place. They ran down the aisle and said that to me. One of them shouted out. And then they turned around, and before I could respond, because what I was going to do, according to the code, the code tells me to do, have them come down and make their case. I'm being charged, presumably with some type of crime. I don't know. See, so I want to find out, and I want everybody else in this place to know. That sounds like some type of charge to me, that, I'm homophobic. First of all, explain what that is. All right? I don't know until you tell me. So I wanted them to come down and make their case.
But they ran out.
Because I always say, that everybody on the planet is in court, and everybody on the planet, every minute of every day, is on trial, including Neely Fuller. And what do you do at a trial? Questions and answers.
Question and answer.
So that people won't be confused about anything. Because I was immediately confused.
Yeah.
Neely Fuller, homophobic? What do you mean by that? I got about 1,000 questions just on that alone, maybe.
Yeah.
All right? We can sit down and talk for days. All right?
Okay. All right. Well, I was asked to ask you that question. Okay, well, we've come to the end of this program, exciting program. That got a little rough start, but we got it in. So we thank you. We'd like to thank everybody who did participate in today's program. Very interesting. Think about some of the things that you were said. Mr. Fuller, the final minute I'm going to give to you. Go ahead, please, sir.
ProduceJustice.com. I'm saying that's what we're all put here for, including all the white people. Why? Because nobody has done it, and it needs to be done. Because without justice, you have what? Chaos, turmoil. And you have one thing we definitely don't want. The Creator created people. And you have all this enjoyment of killing one of the creators, if not the best, one of the best creations that the Creator ever created, and that is people.
People. All righty.
Well put together.
Okay.
But the people on this planet rejoice in killing people. Thanks to the white supremacists.
We thank you, Mr. Fuller. We thank you, the callers, and also the listeners. I will ask this, as I usually do, forgive us for any mistakes that we've made. We'll try to do better the next time. ProduceJustice.com is where you get the books. Everybody have a good week. Mr. Fuller, have a good week. ProduceJustice.com.
Thank you.